Hello everyone, it is I, Mark Major, and I am at the Action Figuratorium. You can see it behind me here, and some of you may know that I'm a real big toy collector, and some of you may know that I like to do a lot of marketing analysis of startup toy companies in terms of their crowdfunding Kickstarters, as well as some of the pre-order campaigns that go on. I myself run a studio here in Southeast Portland, and I have to market to marketing people. I've been doing sales and marketing essentially my whole life, so I love to do these types of analysis. Well, today I'm going to be talking about what are the main components that someone doing a Kickstarter for action figures today needs to do in their campaign for it to be successful. And we're going to take the main points that I bring up and we're going to compare them to some of these successful campaigns that have happened in the last year. So you guys should all stick around for this. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, thanks for joining me. If you can subscribe, please subscribe. Also, there's some other social networks that I'm on. You can see some live streams once in a while on Twitch of me in the studio here, but I'm also on Twitter and Instagram. Those are both very exciting platforms. When you see my content pop up on it, I guarantee you will be entertained. So let's talk about Kickstarters or crowdfunding, or even some types of pre-order campaigns that you might see by startup companies, new toy companies, individual toy creators, people who want to launch their products, their brand into the universe, and they like to start these off by crowdfunding them. So let's start off with the first thing that these guys need to do to be successful. And this, when I say these guys, I mean anyone who wants to have a campaign. They need 3 tiers of pricing and products. Let me explain briefly what that means. You need to have an entry-level cheap thing that everyone and anyone can buy, something that anybody could participate in and get their hands on. And I talk about this all the time. A lot of things are just too expensive for the average person. You need to have something that anybody can acquire on the cheap. And this is a real important thing as part of like the pricing pyramid, as I like to see, is you need to have that bottom layer of something inexpensive that still looks good and still is a lot of fun and people still want, but it has to be priced accordingly so that casuals can kind of wet their beak, as it were. Then you need a second tier, which is referred to by me as the deluxe thing. It's for people who have a little bit more money and are willing to spend more money if they get a little bit more product. That is, they need to get something that's more advanced, evolved, and juicier than the cheap thing that you offer. And it's really for those guys that require sort of better quality or a better product, but have the money and are willing to back it up and pay for it. And then the third tier that you need at the top of the pyramid is you need to come up with a luxury item, something that is there simply for the sake of collecting money. You see, there are people out there who have lots of disposable income, and when they see a new campaign that goes around on Twitter, etc., on some YouTube videos, and they go to the Kickstarter page, they will look at the most expensive thing on the menu and they will buy it regardless of what it is. Whatever, if it fits into their agenda or not. There are people out there that have the money and will spend the money. So you need to create a product for them, a luxury item, just for them to spend it on. Even if it means that you're creating something that is way overpriced, simply for the sake of creating it, you need to have something in that particular spot for them to buy. Okay, let's move on to what I believe is the next thing that people want to see. So you would think that if you had a wide selection of stuff for sale in your opening Kickstarter, that it would be too much and confusing, and that maybe to be more efficient and simplified and to focus, that you should have a single product or less products. And at first glance, when you say things like simplified and efficient and focused, those are all like buzzwords that mean a lot. and you would think to go the way. However, what I have seen with my own eyes is these Kickstarters that offer a wider selection tend to be the ones that kick ass. So based upon what I would say is best practice, right? Best practice, that is something you should do. And let's look at a few of these closed campaigns that happened recently. Let me bring this up. Here's one that I backed. This is called Savage Crucible. These are 6-inch fantasy figures. These guys were trying to hit $120,000. They hit $600,000. That's a little over $500,000. Now, granted, there was a lot of people who worked on this campaign. If you go down in the credits, there's a big list of people, but these guys had a large amount of figures for sale. Let me just scroll down and see all the guys in Wave 1 that you could buy. Notice they had guys on the cheap, 15 bucks. They had guys in the $25 range. They had guys in the $38 range. Exactly what I said about the 3-tiered pricing goes for these guys. Now, when you unlocked, as they sold into this, the next wave, the amount of figures for sale just continued to go up, and more people bought in, which unlocked another wave, and then more and more figures came out with the next wave. As you can see by my scrolling, these are all figures for sale. A lot of them, including, of course, they had extra character packs, head packs, weapon packs, that kind of thing. Did really well. Let's look at another one that I backed. This is the Plungerstrongs and Plungerstrongs. They're essentially goblins and hobgoblins. These guys were trying to hit $100,000. They hit $339,000. That's a little over 3 times what they were asking. Look at how many guys they had. They had the, let's scroll down to where they begin here. They had the Raider Ace and the Raider Blitz. They had the Berserker Pike, the Berserker Mango. They had Captain Ojo, Captain Blackjack. They had this Drench Gills guy. They had Nomad Swashbuckler, Nomad Poncho, Feral 8-Ball, Drench Typhoon, Cursed KO, Cursed Nafrog, Tinker Rusty, Tinker Skiff. Look at all these guys. Plus there's plenty of like add-ons, extra hands, extra weapons, extra accessories. Really just a ton of milestones were hit. And it was because they had a really wide selection. Let's go to another one, because you guys think like, oh, well, that's kind of an anomaly. No, check this out. D13 came out with Biblical Adventures. This closed this year. They were asking $80,000. I have it highlighted here. They doubled that, $164,000. Their first wave had 7 figures available. Now, these are all except for, I think maybe the demon guy. They're all essentially a kind of a generic human buck with different clothing and head sculpts. But they came through and they got this unlocked, and when you got to the next wave, they unlocked another 6 characters. These are a lot of guys. These are a lot of guys, and it paid off. Now let's go to another Kickstarter. This succeeded. I actually backed this, but I just backed it as a $10 pledge. I thought it was cool. They deserved some attention. I was glad to cover it. I didn't mind throwing 10 bucks in the tip jar. Just kind of a nice thing to sort of, you know, give it a bit of psychological boost, I would call it. He was trying to get $130,000. He got $137,000. Barely made it by a few thousand bucks. Didn't double, triple, or hit 6 times the amount. Here's the thing, though. What did he have for sale? He just had this one guy. That was it. You could either get him as a naked Bigfoot, or you could get him in the kind of cool clothes for 30 bucks more. Congratulations. I'm glad you crossed the threshold. I was excited to see it happen. I can't wait to see people getting this figure, actually. But really, the lack of selection on this sort of limited the amount that it was able to raise. Think if he had a couple different Bigfoots. Think if he had a white guy, a Yeti or something, a snowman dude, or maybe he had some sort of a Yeti trapper guy with a trank gun or something. You know, you can start bringing out some more of this stuff, and it would really sort of open up the floodgates of selling even more figures. Let's go to one more before I move on. Almighty Legends. I did not back this. This guy was making these what I call battle angels. They were 6-inch figures that were based off of biblical angels. Again, this guy was competing at the same time with Savage Crucible and Almighty Legends. Some would say that they sort of sucked the oxygen out of the room as far as Almighty Legends go. There were some other flubs this guy kind of made along the way. I'm not saying he's a terrible person or a loser. I think he just kind of had a sort of a rough campaign compared to some of the others. He was trying to hit $97,000. He hit $103,000. He barely squeaked past at the last moment. Congratulations, though. Glad you made it. I think it's going to be so much better going forward. This cat is going to be, he's going to stick around. He's going to do well. He's going to improve his game. He's going to learn a lot of things. But the problem was that he actually only had, kind of like the Odious 1/12 Bigfoot character, he actually only really had one figure for sale, and once you hit the unlock, it would give him the buck that would allow him to make a second figure. So in theory, 2 angels you could get, but that was it. And so if you went in on his Kickstarter and you bought 4 figures, well, you got 4 of the same guy, or 2 and 2. You didn't actually get 4 guys. It took a lot of money to unlock these other figures. He just didn't have the selection, but congratulations on making it. Like I said, I think the guy is going to do better in the future. I think he's learned a lot of lessons. And so I'm just pointing out that what I would think is focus and simplification doesn't seem to work. You actually need variety and a wide range, and it's up to the toy maker to figure out financially how to pull that off. So let's go back to the next thing that I think people are going to need to see here, and that is this. When someone comes to your Kickstarter page, right, you need to have all of your marketing stuff up there. If you do interviews on people's podcasts, or if you've got new pics being shown of the figures and stuff like that, links to that, as well as everything about marketing needs to be on your Kickstarter page. You only get one chance, okay? Someone's combing through Twitter, they see that there's a new Kickstarter for a new toy, they click on the page, they go to this. If they don't get all the sales information right there up front on the Kickstarter, that's it. They're not going to go hunting to dig up interviews and find podcasts with you on it showing the figures off. It's all got to be in front of the person. Otherwise, they're going to flake and bail. They're going to move on. And I can't stress that enough. I think it hurt Almighty Legends, who, if you went to his Kickstarter page, he didn't actually have, as far as I could tell from when I went there, he didn't actually have a lot of really good pics or any pics at all of the actual figures. But you did actually see those figures if you watched some of the podcasts in which he was a guest, and he did reach out to a lot of people. He actually reached out to me because I covered it. He wanted to come on my show, not that I necessarily have a show, but he wanted to come on and he wanted to talk about it. And I think the willingness to go out and engage people is great. I've seen some other companies also go out and engage YouTubers and people like that. The guys from Odd Frog engaged me. As a result, I became much more hip to them. I think those guys are really cool. I think they're really innovative and neat. I think they are going through a little bit of struggle trying to figure out exactly what their brand is, what their product is, but I think those guys with enough time are going to make it. I think Almighty Legends is going to make it. But people aren't going to spend their time hunting on Facebook pages trying to find what the hell your product looks like. You got to shoehorn it all into the Kickstarter. If you make new marketing stuff after you launch the Kickstarter, you need to go back and throw it on. If you have a web page, and I highly recommend you get a web page, you of course need to have everything on that as well, because sometimes people are wary of Kickstarters. They're not sure if you're a legitimate company or not, a legitimate creator, and they need to have some sort of other anchor that lets them know that you're serious and you're into this. So you do need to have a website, and you do need to have all that exact same stuff on it, but make the Kickstarter absolutely tits. Okay, so these are the 3 main things, what I would say Kickstarter 101 for upcoming toy companies, indie companies, that kind of thing. I want to go on to business 102 now with 2 more things about Kickstarters that are going to help. Let's move on to the next slide. So what about little doodads that you can sell? Coins, keychains, tchotchkes, as I like to call them. I love that word tchotchke. I don't even know where it comes from. It's probably some like Polish grandmother made that up or something. But what are these? So these are essentially non-essential to your toy line, but I see a lot of startup toy companies coming out with these types of things as a type of a value add, or to add a little bit of extra selection, or just a little something else for people to purchase, that kind of thing. I myself don't go for these. I hate these things. I don't want to see any goddamn coins and crap like this, but that's just me. I understand that these things are extremely necessary for a lot of people's Kickstarters and pre-orders and things like that. So in terms of best practice, if you look at like what Savage Crucible did, who are kind of the ring champions at this point, these guys had a ton of these weirdo oddball coins. Let me just see if I can... yeah, here we go. Stuff like this that you could pick up, these little cipher coins and stuff like that. So I think that that's a good thing to go with, but you need to realize that it's another product. You're going to have to design it. You're going to have to produce it. You're going to have to get quotes for it. You're going to have to do all that kind of stuff. Hopefully you can do these things cheap enough and charge enough to where it's worth your time and money. Sometimes these are the kinds of things that you just have to be successful, even if it's something you don't want to do. If I was doing a Kickstarter, I would think about doing this. Even though I can't stand this kind of shit, I would still have to relent, which any business and marketing person who's in it to win it has to do. You got to go with best practice where it is applicable. Okay, let's move on to the last bit here. Lore and background. So all your characters should have some sort of a lore to them, some sort of a backstory. Do you need to then create comic books and video games and extra things like that? And I'm going to say straight out of the gate, no, because those things are their own industries on their own. There are people out there who just create comic books and crowdfund them. It's its own separate business. However, there's nothing to stop you from having a single web page up with several paragraphs of text of backstory that people can find. You can also take these pages of text and you can turn them into a PDF, and then people can download it. You could also add some illustrations and graphics to this PDF. You can make essentially a digital comic book or a digital lore book of some sort on the cheap, next to nothing. A couple days, just some text and some graphics is enough to get you there. If you do want to go the route of actually making a comic book and other type of supplemental background lore for your characters, I see other people doing that. I don't necessarily know, because I don't have the numbers in front of me, I don't know how lucrative that is with how much energy it takes to create your own little published comic book and sell it with your figures. And so I'm going to say that that's going to be something a bit more advanced. I wouldn't want anybody who's like trying to make their first action figure to get bogged down also trying to come up with the comic book that comes with it. And what if your comic book comes out and it's really crappy looking because you just don't have the chops, or you don't have the energy, or you don't have the type of financial capital to put into something like that? Could it actually hurt the toy line? Well, maybe, maybe not sure. But I don't think it's necessary to actually have to go that far and make something like that. But there's nothing to stop you from at least having a web page. Now, having said that, I have gotten a couple of negative feedbacks and comments from people when I have looked at some pre-order toy lines that I just didn't understand the characters in some way. And they were mocking me, saying that I hadn't done my due diligence as a reviewer to get to know all the lore. Look, guys, it's not up to me to try and sell me on the toy. At the end of the day, if I don't get into the action figure and I don't buy it, the joke's on them. it's not, the joke isn't on me. They're the guys trying to sell the product, and if they can't sell the product, oh well, sorry, you missed out on your opportunity, all right? So when you do make up your background and your lore and all these things like this, please note that people aren't going to go out of their way to dig deep into these characters and figure out who they are. A lot of people are casuals, just like me, and when I say I'm a casual, you know, I go into a toy line like Mythic Legions. I don't go all in. I don't collect all the figures. I don't go hunt everything down. I cherry pick a couple guys that I personally connect with and like. And I buy a couple guys here or there. Over the years, I've acquired quite a few figures, but it's all from cherry picking what I like. I'm not here to like go and, you know, take an online course on the background of Mythic Legions figures and whatnot so that I can better understand the video game or something. It's not up to me to sell me, it's up to them. So when you're picking out your characters and figuring out what they are, make sure that they are easily acceptable to people, or you know, to get into the milieu, the psyche, the zeitgeist, and that people can just automatically relate and dig into it and have a good time doing it. That's my take on this. So that is Mark Major, the marketing guy's approach to new startups doing Kickstarters. If you like this video, of course, you know, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like this video and you're giving it a thumbs down, let me know what you didn't like about it. Do you not like the presentation? Do you think the facts are wrong? Do you think, you know, that I've missed something, and or that, you know, everything about this whole concept is totally backwards? Whatever it is, whatever you didn't like about it, let me know. I love discussing. I love to hear from people, and oftentimes I change my mind, and oftentimes I'm actually wrong about stuff. These things are not scripted teleprompter reads. These are hot takes that I do. I look at something and I say, yeah, it looks like crap, or I look at something and I go, oh, it looks great, but it's overpriced. Hot takes. I could be wrong a lot of the time, and you could change my opinion on it. So leave a comment and let me know. With that, I'll catch everybody on the next one. More great vids coming up this week. See you then.